Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Prerona and I'm from India, that is belonging to the birthland of world-renowned spiritual leader and all-time great visionary Swami Vivekananda, who during his visit to Japan in 1893, that's around 100 years back more than, was inspired by the country's technical advancements and wished that youth of India should visit to Japan. With that, I'm expressing my gratitude to LLVM Dev Meetings and the hosting country for the opportunity to present a talk on understanding tables and generated files in the LLVM backend. So I'm basically a compiler engineer working mostly on the backend and that too on GPUs. So for the past 3 years, I have been more familiar with the LLVM table gen, and I faced a lot of problems when I was trying to support features in the backend. And that was really the motivation of this talk. So basically, I would like to make this talk a beginner's guide on how to navigate through some of the important and common files, C++ files, that is your .inc files generated from TD. I would also like to share that for this talk, I'm using examples from the AR64 backend, but I'm not an expert, AR64 expert, and I'm more familiar with global ISL. So as I was saying about the motivation, apart from debugging the encoding and decoding errors, it also helps you understand the C++ code, concrete C++ code that is generated from TD, and also the interconnection between the TD and the target independent and target dependent code generator APIs. There was a talk in the morning slot where we talked about TableGen a bit. I would like to further add that it basically offers the feature of generating a voluminous, repetitive, tedious code, C++ code, by writing relatively lesser and non-duplicated TD code. And you can represent a lot of things in the backend, and I've mentioned only a few here. Basically, the TD code is converted to C++ code by the LLVM TableGen tool. I've also mentioned the AR64 TD files and the .inc files and the paths where you can find them, and this can be applied to the respective backends. This is another flow which I'm going to continue throughout the presentation. Basically, I've listed all the IRs that are applicable to the LLVM backend, and I've tried to show how some of the .inc files are getting used. For the scope of this talk, I'm going to cover the highlighted files. To make it simpler for me and us, I'm going to consider an example. This is basically the global ISL flow, just a 32-bit add instruction and the various representations in the IRs. So the highlighted is MIR, and it's basically an instantiation of the TD abstract record that I have mentioned. Let's zoom in that TD record. So these are the abstract and the concrete records that are invoked to convert your MIR to the binary. I'll also like to highlight the way the signed immediates and the registers are represented, and the combination of both together, this is the relevant information from the TD for the talk. So let's look at the first file, which does the encoding, basically converts your MC inst to binary. It's MC code emitter.inc. So you have the function encode instruction in code emitter.cpp, which invokes get binary code for instruction. So this function will return a 32-bit value, unsigned value of the instruction. To elaborate this further, I am trying to show the code for add WRI, which is basically the 32-bit add instruction in the MIR. So the code looks like this, basically get binary code for instruction. In that function, you have multiple switch cases, and it's easier to find the respective switch case. But I want to highlight how the TD code is getting mapped to the C++ code. So like the first 5 bits are for destination register, and the next 5 bits are for the source operand, and the remaining, and from the next few bits are for the immediate. One thing that you should understand here is the encoder method that you are defining in the TD record, that gets invoked while you are doing the encoding. The next file that I'm going to look at does semantically the opposite, basically converts your binary back to the MC inst. So that's called gen disassembler tables.inc. So I can divide it into two steps. The first is interpreting the entries in the decoder table. Basically, you have the get instruction function which invokes the decode instruction. I have I've shown the entry for the add WRI, the decoder, the entry in the decoder table, and also I've tried to highlight what each of the entries mean. So depending on the operation type, the relevant functions will be invoked. So if your operation is, I can go to the previous slide. No. So the operation is OPC decode. So your decode to MC inst will be invoked. Now this is also a function which has various switch cases, but here the case labels are basically the decode IDX. And I have tried to highlight how you can calculate the decode IDX. Similar to the encoder, here the decoder method is going to be invoked. And next file that we can look at is the gen instruction info.inc, which will give you the information about the instruction set which is used in various IRs. So I have highlighted three features or three information that you can get from the file. So first is the enumerations for your target independent and target dependent opcode. The second information that you can get is the enumerations for enums for the scheduling models that are applicable to the operands of the instruction. And the third is the target specific properties that are applicable to the instruction. I would like to highlight that all of the examples that I'm covering here are related to add WRI. So additionally, one last thing I could share is this file also consists of the code to initialize your MC inst layer. This is the last few slides of the talk, where we are going to see the file register.info.inc, register.bank.inc, which emits the target register file and the bank for code generator. So let's first look at register.info.inc. It enumerates registers, sub-registers. Then it also defines your target register class for each register. Basically, whatever you are instantiating using the register class, that is basically converted. You can see the C++ code for that here. So for example, for add WRI, the operand types were, register types were GPR 32SP, which means that it's a 32-bit GPR register which also supports stack pointer, and that's the corresponding class that's that's a corresponding code, C++ code that's generated by the file, by the backend basically in the file. Apart from that, it also defines the target gen register and info class, which has several utility functions which are used throughout the code throughout the backend. Next I can, okay. And the next is similar to the register information, you have the register bank information, which will define the register bank used by the target dependent code generator, and it also has some useful functions like get reg bank from reg class. So I am taking an example here. It's the global ISL flow. So during the reg bank select phase, as well as while instruction selection, I can see that this function is invoked to get the register banks. And these are some of the common errors that I personally encountered while working with Tablegen. This is not an exhaustive list, but the intent is that it might help someone who is getting started. I will not get into the details because it could be more time consuming, but please feel to read it later. And throughout the flow, throughout the presentation, we had a different view of the whole, how the ink files are getting used. This is another flow which was also covered in the morning talk. Basically, every file, every sub DSL has a backend, and you can pass various arguments to the LLVM Tablegen tool to generate the appropriate file. The code resides in this folder, LLVM utils tablegen. And if you are interested to see what is the actual command that's getting used to generate these dotting files, you could also check the build.ija, build.cmake, and get that idea. Okay, this is kind of the last slide. So these are the references that I have used, and I initially started with a 50-slide deck. I was covering some more information, but I pruned down, and that would not have been possible without the valuable feedback from my colleagues at NVIDIA, Shekhar, Jason, Madhun, in fact, everyone on the list. So I'm very thankful to them, and I'm also thankful to my mom for encouraging me. This is my first solo international trip, so it was an overwhelming experience, but yes, I'm very glad to share the knowledge here. Thank you.
Great talk, thank you. We don't have enough resources on Tablegen in general. You mentioned a couple of slides back that there were some common errors that you'd encountered. Do you think that there is room for improving the error? There is room for improving. Do you think it's possible for better error messages to come out of Tablegen? And do you have any ideas on what might?
So that was exactly the discussion that I was having with Chris this morning. He kind of explained me what are what is the scope for improvement in Tablegen, and this was exactly one of the things he mentioned, that we need better error messages. But yes, I would like to explore this, and this could be my next topic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, great talk.
Thank you.
I actually have, I guess, more implementation questions. So image that we have a machine that has a large register file, okay, and some of the instruction can take consecutive register, for example, around 10 to 20 register. And I think I found something. It is hard to describe these things in Tablegen, because image that I needed to declare a register bank. Assume we are using global instruction selection, so I needed to define register bank for 32-bit, 64-bit, and even large. Mm-hmm. So do you think, and also for these large register files, the Tablegen will generate enumeration for all of these registers. So do you think is there a better way to describe the register file in Tablegen? If the machine has very large register files and it can consume 10 to 20 registers. So
I think your question is a good one, but I may not be the right person to answer this, but in case anyone in the audience, experts would like to share And this is a good question. This is going to be helpful for the architectures where things are getting more complex. I'm more familiar with the encoder than the decoder functions for now because that's the problem I faced a lot. But yeah, I actually open up that question for anyone who would like to answer it. Thank you for the question.
That's a good question. It's more of an observation. So your talk was amazing. You did a really great job, and I'm very impressed with you pulling together all of this information. Your point about error messages are something that a lot of people feel the pain about. I don't know if anybody in this room has grumpy with Tablegen. One of the things that would be really cool is to just pull together a project where you just catalog all of the bad things that happen. Like if you started a project just across the community of pulling together like all the bad error messages that people suffer from, then we could actually have a project where you say, let's go actually make these better. And we could have a whole community project which you could lead where you say, hey, actually some of these error messages are because of Tablegen, but some of them are one of the backends that doesn't detect a problem. And if we could do this, then we could make it better for everybody. And it could be a very fun project and a great way for other people to get involved as well. And you could get more people involved with helping make Tablegen better where they may not know where to start. So, but I love your talk.
Thank you. It means a lot coming from you. And yes, that's something, I mean, I really struggled a lot, especially while debugging the decoding errors. I could not understand which case label to switch to in the functions. And that was one issue. Then yeah, I mean, I was really struggling, but then I decided to document it, and I'm so glad that I can share it with the community, and I would really like to take up that, what you suggested. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so we're a little bit ahead of schedule, so we'll take a little quick transition break of like 3 or 4 minutes, and we'll get on to the next talk. Thank you.
Thank you.